Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back. Today I'm discussing Tudor September, or as the tag says, Tudortember. I hadn't planned on doing it originally because I only just heard about it, but I did have a book that I really wanted to read, an audiobook that I wanted to listen to, so I made sure that I did that instead, just to kind of break up some of my other reading, because I knew it would be something I would really enjoy. And as usual, it did not at all make me regret that decision. So, no disappointments. From the book Anne Boleyn and Elizabeth I, The Mother and Daughter Who Changed History by Tracy Borman. And I love this time in history anyway. I really enjoy all of Henry VIII's wives. So I never read anything that connected the mother and daughter relationship. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So you got to see Anne Boleyn's, not so much her childhood, but like once she kind of gets old enough where she does her time in France and kind of learns the ropes and stuff, and then the time that she comes to England and catches the eye of Henry VIII. In the meantime, you get to hear about how educated and intelligent she was, how charming, all the stuff that drew Henry and a lot of people to her. But you get to see how that reflects later in her daughter. She learned multiple languages. She was very well read. She herself was a proponent to the Reformation. She had read biblical translation from Martin Luther. And so she had very deep beliefs and stuff in this. And I found it fascinating that we never really got to explore that much when we're talking about the Reformation and how Henry wanted the divorce and to leave the church and stuff. We don't ever, or at least I don't hear much discourse on Anne's position on that, and how she very much would have been pro breaking away, not just so that she could marry the king, but because, her personal beliefs were that she was following along this line and becoming a Protestant, rather than the Catholic. She had some issues with the faith and stuff. So I found that intriguing when you follow the through lines into then Catherine or Elizabeth's life, because not only was she very devout in her religion as well, and very educated. There was somebody who had said that she could speak 9 languages fluently or something. So she learned a lot from the absence of her mother, since she didn't get to learn a whole lot from her mother. And despite the fact that she had to rule as a man, with the power and the authority, and kind of cling to her father's image and stuff like that, you can still see in her reign her mother's influence. You can see the trauma of having lost her mother in such a horrific way when she was young, and then later on when she came to court and became really close with Catherine Howard, who was her mother's cousin, and then having her die horrifically in the same way, how that would traumatize a girl. How when she later became queen, not only did she not want to share her power, she never wanted to marry. She made that decision when she was very young, because she saw what happens to women who get married, especially her family. And so she even would hold grudges and get mad at people close in her court, her ladies and stuff, if they fell in love and got married. And she felt that as a betrayal, because she just despised the marriage the whole idea of it so much because of these founding memories, these foundational memories. And so I just found it intriguing how Henry hated the thought of a daughter so much, and Elizabeth is his child who was the most successful and had the longest reign and did the most with their Tudor name. And that also was helpful in understanding a lot of Anne's choices that eventually led to her downfall, because she was making choices that she thought would get her in closer with Henry when she started feeling him slip away. And then she also tried to, with her last breath, protect her daughter. And she tried to give her everything that she could, like her last moments, rather than yelling at Henry for what he had done to her, for apologizing, or for pleading for mercy. She instead basically was trying to reminisce with him so that he would think better of her, and therefore perhaps not hold his hatred for her against her daughter. And for somebody who only had her in her life for a few months, was only alive for a few years of it, it's just fascinating how profound that impact, how much she fought for her daughter and for her place in her daughter's legacy. And then how you can see later in history with Elizabeth trying to understand the truth instead of all the gossip and all the lies her dad would have told her throughout the years about her mother, the lies that she had to listen to her sister and her brother discuss when they talked about her mother, and how complicated those memories would have been for her. I really enjoyed it. I also liked the fact that you got to see how much distrust Anne had in the people around her because of what she was going through and who she was married to, and how quickly things changed within the country. That she tried to surround herself, and therefore her daughter, with her side of the family. So she had some Boleyns and some Howards and stuff work uh, and be part of her entourage, her protection. And then how it ended up being part of her downfall, because some of them also fearing Henry's wrath, or perhaps just wanting to up their own station, were also the ones who turned on her. So in the end, the ones that the family, the closeness that she was craving, the loneliness that she would have felt, and the paranoia, and then still being betrayed by those that she actually let in, is a bit heartbreaking. And then mirrored with Elizabeth's entire reign of never knowing who to trust, never fully letting anybody in because of what had happened to her mom, and that loneliness that she would have felt, and how that affects her reign and her decisions and everything like that. And you don't think about the correlation until you read it in a book like this, just how much the sins of the mother, or the sins of the father, or the absence of each parental figure just stays in your psyche. And even if you're trying to escape it, it kind of just roots itself in there, in your decisions, and your who you're going to trust, and how you're going to rule, and what you're going to do for your country, what you're going to do for religion, for education, for anything. How it all starts. It all starts with Anne and Henry's basically destruction of her. It would have been really interesting, had it not gone in history the way it did, to see what kind of queen Anne would have been able to be, to see if she had not been a queen at all. Not only would we not have had Elizabeth, but just wonder what her place in the Reformation would have been, what her place within society, because she fought for, education for women, and a lot of progressive rights that we don't really always associate with her, because she didn't have a whole lot of time on the throne. But her family was rising in the ranks, and she had very high connections, even in other countries and stuff. So it would have been interesting how different the development of the modern world in that era specifically would have been, had she lived. And I really enjoyed that book. It is a bias of mine, though. I mean, I chose it specifically because I enjoy that part of history, but I do highly recommend it. It was a 5-star read for me, especially in consideration for Tudortember. And I just wanted to quickly associate that with another of my 5-star favorite historical biography. So this is like a dual biography, and there is a almost like a triple biography, Young Queens by Redmond Chang, and that one is actually about the correlations and the relationships between Mary, Queen of Scots, Catherine Medici, and her daughter Elizabeth, who then became the Queen of Spain. And so they all ruled different countries. Each country had a very different socioeconomic, political thing going on that they were right in the midst of. And they all came to the throne very young. So I really enjoyed that one as well, especially since Catherine Medici and Mary, Queen of Scots, are two of my favorite figures in history to learn about. But just to have, not only did they all know each other and had a lot of a good relationship with each other, Elizabeth and Mary had been really great friends. Catherine had been like her surrogate mother while she was away in France for most of her life. And so you get to see how they started out close, and how their responsibilities to their individual nations tore them apart. It's very well researched, and it includes a lot of letters that were left because they had written to each other a lot, especially the mother and daughter. And so you get to see their turmoil, their questioning, their concerns, and they all had the same exact problems with being respected and accepted by society, having been, Mary, Queen of Scots, barely set foot in Scotland, and yet she was meant to rule. Catherine Medici, she was from Florence, the Medici family, and so she was not, she was considered an outsider when she married and became the Queen of France. And then you have the French Elizabeth, who married into Spain, and they were all highly Catholic. So it's interesting reading that book, and then thinking about a lot of the same time period going on with Elizabeth's rule, and in Elizabeth going through a lot of the stuff that she went through with her cabinet, or her advisors and stuff not respecting her or wanting to listen to her as a woman, and her problems being a Protestant amongst Catholics, and the same thing with Mary going to Scotland as they were becoming Protestant while she was Catholic. And so you get to see all these similarities with all these very strong women. And I found the parallels very, very intriguing, even though I read Young Queens um, over about 2 years ago, probably. I still think about it often because I just really like their relationships, their depth, and what they have accomplished and tried to get through. And I put this new book right on the same pedestal as that one, just because you get this all-encompassing era at the time, because it would all be still, except with the exception of Catherine's childhood and then learning about Anne, all of it is embracing that Tudor era. And you get to see how each country responds to a woman in power, especially when you throw in religion on top of politics and the geopolitical wars and stuff going on as each nation vies for different thrones. So they were great companion books to think about together. It just gives you a really great overarching history of that time, and I would recommend both. Again, the first one was Anne Boleyn and Elizabeth I, Mother and Daughter Who Changed History by Tracy Borman. And the other one was Young Queens by Leah Redmond Chang. And I will write both names down below. But I hope you take a time to at least look into one of these, or at least kind of research in history. I just find this time period fascinating. And next year, now that I know they do Tudortember, I am going to put some books aside to make sure that I read specifically for this tag and for this wonderful challenge. So thank you, happy reading, and have a great day.